Hey, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about Jeep Commander that I have 2008, mainly about the code C2200. So this might help some people out there. It helped me, got me through it without having to replace the modules. So C2200 says the internal fault in the ABS module. So I drive this Jeep a lot daily, crank up at least 8 to 10 times a day. So I'm not sure if that was part of the reason for the fault or not, but one of my trips, left a customer's house, cranked it up, started driving, and the lights on the dash came on. After about 14, 15 miles an hour, the ABS light, the like handbrake light came on, the traction control light, I think an EBS light at the bottom, and another light. So there's 5 lights there that came on. Thought it might be a fluke, stopped at the next house, turned it off, cranked it back up, and sure enough, the same thing. I have a scan tool. So a while back, I bought this OBD Lynx LX. Bought this off of Amazon, and it works with your phone. So it was recommended through a RAM site because I also have a RAM 1500 Eco Diesel, and I needed it for that to do some adjustments in the computer engine control module. So I knew I had that at the house, and I would get around to doing that. Plus, I have Alpha OBD, which is a really good program that allows you to do in-depth visions of stuff, not just like, oh, you have a check engine light, clear it. This actually allows you to go in and test modules, test each individual mark. So it's really in-depth, something that a main mechanic would do. So pretty mechanically inclined, working on different things like that. So that was my first step. Once I ended up getting to this the module, plugged it in, found there was a code C2200, read up on the code, the internal fault in the ABS module, did like 10 or 12 tests. It activates all the solenoids, front, left, rear, brake, and everything. My first thought, though, was when I looked it up, with the lights, it comes up saying, your speed sensor might be bad. One of the speed sensors are bad, and it'll cause the lights to light up like that on the dash as well. I looked into the prices on those, but before I bought one, I chose to do the double check the test and get the code. And after reading the code, I realized it has nothing to do with that. On top of that, in this Alpha OBD, I was able to actually do a test where it shows real-time data and shows all of my sensors were working while I was driving down the road. It was saying how many kilometers each unit was moving and such. So moving on, the dash lights, continued to do that. I did all the stupid stuff, like get out there, tap on the unit with a screwdriver, see if something's stuck, a solenoid stuck that would pop loose or whatever. That didn't work. So looking up online, finding the units cost $500, $550 for the replacements for this specific vehicle. It looks like they've been discontinued, so everybody's price gouging on them. That was not where I wanted to go to buy something like that, and I didn't want to buy a used one. They look old and beat up, worse than the one I have. So what I did do was this is how I actually corrected my problem. One customer I read or watched a YouTube video on said that he basically just drove it for a little bit, and then one day he was just sitting idle for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, waiting, and then cranked up the vehicle next time, and no problems after that. That did get me kind of thinking that that normally wouldn't happen just because of the car idling, but what about using it? Now, my specific situation was when I cranked up the Jeep, none of the lights would be on. When you start driving over 14 or 15 miles an hour, the door locks on the sides, they lock automatically, and that's when your ABS system does a self-diagnostic, self-test. As soon as it do that self-diagnostic, boom, the lights would come on. So what I do for work, measuring different jobs and such, there's sand around and loose areas where you can get off road a little bit. I was thinking, well, let me try going off-road and spinning some tires, see what happens. So, of course, with the AB lights on, it disables the ABS system. Your computer disables the system, so it won't give you any traction control or anything. So, got out there first, spun the tires, hit the gas pretty halfway, and just, threw some sand, and no ABS kicking, no traction control working. So after that, I went and finished my measure, came back to that spot, and at that time, I actually cranked the vehicle up without any of the lights on. So when the lights were all off, I was figuring probably the system's not turning the ABS module off, and I want to see if it will actually even work, if the traction control will work. I got into the sand, before any of the lights came on, made sure I didn't go over 14 miles an hour, just set in first gear, and started spinning the tires, and sure enough, I can feel current, the ABS kicking, and the analog brake light that never came back on, but the traction control light was flashing, showing that you are in a position where your traction control is being utilized in the Jeep. So I did that for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Stopped, then spun a little bit more because it was soft sand, and had the system kicking a little bit there. And after that, I got out of the sand, and got back on the street, stuck it in regular drive, started driving down the road, and sure enough, no lights on the dash. So I would assume whatever solenoid or something wasn't working properly, or if there was an air bubble or something in the brake line, that the use of that actually pushed the fluid through, and or pushed whatever was causing the problem and broke it loose. So just to make sure, I was driving down the road at about 30 miles an hour, went off into a flat area of sand, and hit the brakes really hard, and the ABS just we're going nuts because the soft sand, it hardly even slows you down because your tires are just slipping anyways. So everything, ABS system got a good workout, and now the lights do not come on at all. That was how I fixed mine. If you're going to do it, what you do have to do is make sure if your system is, if you turn the key and all the lights are already on, this isn't going to work for you, because that means it's automatically disabling your ABS module. But if you're like me, you turn the key and no lights are on, but as soon as you hit that test threshold of 14, 15 miles an hour and they come on, then you would want to make sure that you're in a spot that is safe, of course. If you have somebody else there to tow you out, if you have a two-wheel drive, then you might want that. If you have four-wheel drive, if you start getting stuck, you can always engage your four-wheel drive, because you're going to do this in two-wheel drive mode only. Your ABS module will kick in even in two-wheel drive for the traction control. So with four-wheel drive, you're not going to be so worried. If you're in two-wheel drive, you might want to make sure that somebody can pull you out if you need, or whatever. But get in a safe spot where you can have the engine, turn it off, crank it back up, have no lights on the dash, and then start spinning the tires a little bit, getting that where you have traction loss, have that system start pumping itself. And once you do that, maybe pull out of there, turn the engine off, and then go ahead and take a test drive, see if that works. Worked for me, hopefully it'll work for you. Saved me $550 plus a lot of labor putting that thing in, which of course the dealer's going to charge $1,000 or more. I'm pretty sure this won't just work for Jeep. It's pretty much any module, ABS module system out there, but that code C2200 is what I had, showing that there was an internal failure. And I'll turn the dash on right now. So the brake light, the ABS light, the ESP, do it again, brake light, ABS light, ESP, BAS, and traction control over there were all the ones that I had on, and they were staying on. Your ABS modules located under the hood. Typically you'll see all the brake lines coming out of it. My specific one, like I said, was going to cost $500, $550 just for the unit, and then of course I need to replace it I double checked my connections, and the connection that actually goes to it, which is this right here. You can't really see it too well, but there's wires down at the bottom. I disconnected that, plugged it back in with the engine off, of course, not running, to make sure there wasn't a bad connection. Still nothing worked. Tapped on the side of it with a screwdriver. That didn't work. When I did the ABS test through my Alpha OBD, the motor would spin up. It says, you know, expect to hear click, 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 click. So did it through all 4 of the tires and the traction control, and everything seemed to work out right. All of them passed. So I'm not sure what was sticking inside the unit, but at this point I'm happy because no lights on the dash, and everything's working properly. I even drove off, and like I said, and hit some soft sand, hit the brakes, made sure the ABS works, and everything's in operational. This video is just to help somebody to try to you know, turn the lights off. If you feel this could be something that is more involved than just what I told you, I'd say make sure you go and get it checked out by a mechanic. Nobody wants to be unsafe or have any problems because they listen to a video like mine. So there's no guarantees it's going to work, and there's no, you know, guarantees that if it does work, that module is always going to work properly for you. That's why the cars have their self-tests and everything, to make sure that, you know, it's operating properly. So of course I hope no liability for anything that could happen if you try this, and instead of paying to have it replaced and your lights go off, and then you think something else happened and caused damage. So good luck to you. Like I said, I myself think that this is a good way to even just use your module occasionally to keep, you know, it operating. I was told by a mechanic a long time ago, good thing is go down a dirt road, hit your brakes, use the ABS a little bit just to get it to pump and operate, and that should give you a better longevity on your ABS system anyways.